Hi everybody, Bill Corbett here with from Corbett Public Relations and Grow Your Personal Brand. And I figured I'd spend a few minutes this last day we'll be in this week before the Christmas holiday and talk a little bit about the topic of, does your brand have personality disorder? Or is your brand, different in the real world than it is online? And when we consult with people, often through Grow Your Personal Brand and through other of our businesses here, we often see that people who are in sales, marketing, CEOs of companies, they have a great presence in the real world. They have a great presence amongst people, but then when they go into the cyber world, be it LinkedIn, YouTube, Periscope, or other places online, that their brands are completely different. They don't convey the same messages, they don't look the same, they don't act the same, they don't sound the same. So I thought I'd go through with you a little bit about how, what you can do to make sure that your brand is consistent both in the real world and online. So let's go through a couple of those steps right now. Really, your brand is, what is your brand? Your brand is how other people perceive you, in your marketplace, where you do business, or just in life in general. How they look at you, what they think of you, how they respect you or don't respect you, and really what their total vision of you is, right? So you have to think about that. And also, that I said, it's how your audience views you, right? So you can help guide the direction of your brand, but at the end of the day, it's your followers, your fans, your customers who decide what your brand is. So you always have to keep that in mind, and you have to lead them down that road so that they have that perception of you and how you want them to have, the perception you want them to have of you, and make sure that it's accurate. And a lot of times it can get out of whack. Basically, people's online brands and people's real world brands really don't always match up, and sometimes it's very far and away in different directions. We had one individual who was an accountant, for example, and obviously on LinkedIn, people would recommend him and endorse him for accounting services. But a problem was that he started getting a lot of endorsements for estate planning and other financial related stuff. He does some of that, but it's not his area of expertise, and he really wasn't known for that. But it kind of a ball got rolling where people kept endorsing him for this, and it didn't match his brand. So we sat down and we determined how to figure out to get that brand consistency. So first of all, you got to understand how your brand comes together, how other people perceive you, and how you appear in the real world. And your real world brand is, certainly a couple things to think about. So it's how you dress, it's how you speak, it's your personality, it's whether you're funny or not, and how you convey your expertise and your message. When you walk into a networking event, what image do you project? How do you interact with others? When you're at a speaking engagement, how do you project yourself? How do you interact with others? Do you position yourself as an interesting expert, or are you more of an informative person or teacher, instructor? These are all the different ways people convey their brand and their message. And no one way or other way is right or wrong, but you have to understand what your approach is and what your brand is. You need to ask yourself some questions, and this is a good time of year to do it. It's the beginning of 2016 in just a couple of days. So you want to think about, what is your brand message? Or do you have a message when you're out there? Everybody has their elevator speech, but what do you stand for? And that's something you should write down and think about. What do you stand for? For me, what do I stand for? I want to help small businesses grow. I want to make them more successful. I want to give them the tools, the support, and the information that they need to succeed. So that's my message, and I'm continuously conveying that online here through Periscope and other places, as well as when I'm out speaking and doing other engagements such as that. Content. What content are you sharing, both again when you're giving a speaking presentation and what you're sharing online? Are they the same things? A lot of people start using social media and they use it for fun, but that starts invading, if you will, and invading is the word I like to use, invading maybe LinkedIn or Twitter accounts and other accounts that are being used for business, right? So that personality stuff and personal stuff is interfering with the brand that you want to project to people who you may have business relationships with. We do live in a cyber world where some of this stuff goes back and forth, but if you want to convey the proper and consistent message, you have to think about what you're projecting and how you're projecting it. And that's the content. That's your blogs, That's just posts. That's how you communicate with people online. Now, it's also, your brand is how you demonstrate your knowledge. You demonstrate that through speaking engagements, videos, blogs. How do you convey that? Are those blogs consistent? Do you stick within an area that's a defined area of your expertise, knowledge base, and background? If you're an expert in public relations or marketing, you're probably not going to write, an article on estate planning or financial advisory services. It's just not within your wheelhouse, right? So you want to stick to your niche. That doesn't mean that periodically you can't write on things that are of interest to you, such as, if you like to cook or barbecue or do things like that, and tell people a little bit about who you are and what you're about, because your personality and who you are in your personal life connects into who you are in your business life and makes you a more interesting person. If you're one-dimensional, you're not really very interesting. The other thing is, you want to go about creating and assessing what images of you exist both online and in other areas. So, for example, if I'm doing a speaking engagement, I give somebody a photo. I'm not going to give them a photo of me that's 5 or 10 years old. We see people doing that all the time. But you also need to assess what images of you exist and are being used out on the internet and in social media. So you need to ask yourself a couple questions. Does your real world brand really match your online brand? And it's not just LinkedIn, it's not just Twitter. You have to do a search to understand where your brand is online and how you can assess changing it or bringing it together so it's consistent with your real world persona as well as your online persona. And you'd be surprised. Some people, you look at their Twitter account, it says one thing. You look at their LinkedIn account, it says another. You watch videos that they do, it's completely different. You look at Instagram, and all this stuff is all scattered and all over the place. And what does that do? It confuses your brand. It confuses the people out there who are trying to connect with you and follow you. They don't know, oh, maybe one day you're doing this and one day you're doing that. And what do you truly stand for? It comes back to that message. So you have to examine all of those sites. And you also want to do a Google search. You want to check on Google where your brand, or where your name is. So you want to Google yourself, frequently to understand that. Now, you want to look on Google. And there's a couple areas of Google that you want to explore. If you look at the bar there, you can look at the general Google and general internet and the web and where you are, how your name comes up and where it comes up. If you typed your name in, you're probably going to have your website. You're probably going to have your LinkedIn page, come up, maybe indexed tweets that you were mentioned in or from you, and they're going to come up in a bunch of different ways. And you need to know how that's coming up, and is it correct? Are these the right types of things that you want to have coming up? Are they conveying your brand in the proper way? Now, you also need to go to social media sites like LinkedIn. You want to review your profile, certainly. You want to go to Twitter, review your profile there. You want to manually go through that. But you also want to do a search within those social media sites just to see if there's any outliers out there. I just did a review of somebody's LinkedIn page today, and I found that they had 3 different LinkedIn accounts. I found somebody on Twitter who had several different ones. One of them hasn't been active since 2013. So you don't want to have multiple accounts on these different platforms. For the most part, there are probably a couple occasions where if somebody has 2 drastically different businesses, for example, maybe they have a job and then they have a side business, and maybe there's a reason to create a side group of social media sites. But remember, it's your brand, and the more diluted it gets, the more confusing it gets for people who are out there trying to connect with you, or you want to build up your following. So if it's inconsistent, you're going to cause people headaches, and they're not going to stick around and try to figure you out. They're going to go away and find somebody else. If you're a marketing expert, or if you're a financial advisor, attorney, accountant, whatever your area of expertise is, and you're confusing people, they're just going to move on, because there's so many choices out there, and people only have an attention span that lasts maybe 9 seconds. So you want to again make sure that those 2 things, the 2 worlds, the real world and the cyber world, are consistent, and they're consistent throughout the different platforms that you're on. If you have trouble keeping up with them, maybe it's time to shut them down. If you cannot keep up with an Instagram account, you can't keep up with a Twitter account, and you don't use it often, well, maybe it's better to dispose of that and focus on the places where you are. Focus on your blog, where you can tell your brand story. Focus on LinkedIn posts that can be a little bit more in-depth and talk about the topics that you're interested in and show your expertise. So to clarify your brand message, you have to do a couple of things. So you want to recognize what you stand for and write that down. That's not just who you are and what you do, what you stand for, but you need to know who you are and what you do as well, and for writing down in your bios. You want to update your bios. This is a good time of year to do it. Go look at your 2015 bio on LinkedIn and the other places, and even in the real world, your real world hard copy bio, if you need that for presentations or you need it to show to prospects and clients, you want to update that. You want to think about, what do you want other people to know about you? Right? What do you want them to know about you? And that should be part of these online as well as real world communications. And you want to explain to people what you want them to know about you, because the most important thing is you want to convert these people into brand ambassadors who will go out and talk you up to other people. But if they don't know what you want them to know about you and what you're interested in doing and what you stand for, they're going to have a hard time doing that. Again, confusion. We're trying to eliminate this confusion in the marketplace. How you are different. This is the key differentiators, how you're different. I work with people all the time. We make a list of all the ways that they're different from other people in their industries, from their competitors, right? There's a lot of people out there in the legal profession. There's a lot of people out there in marketing. There's a lot of people out there in franchise businesses, including restaurants, etc. But what makes a restaurant or an individual franchise different from the others? People have a lot of choices these days, and you need to find out what those differences are and highlight them, accentuate them, and use them to sell yourself and your business consistently. How do you appear? What is your look? I mean, some people have they have a casual look. They don't have to go to a lot of networking events or formal events, and being casual is fine. But you have another look or costume that you potentially wear when you go out to a business event, whether it's a casual event or whether it's a networking event. Do you know what you wear? Are you consistent in that? Do you have a professional appearance when you're out at these events? It's very surprising and interesting to watch. If you have somebody who comes to an event all year round wearing their suit and tie or their dress or their business suit for a woman, and then holiday season they come around and they're wearing a red sweater, or they're wearing something that's just, I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying it could potentially be a little bit different, that it stands out, that it's different when at a different time of year when you do something differently. Maybe in the summer, typically wearing a suit, dress, business suit, business dress or business attire for a woman, and then you come in something that's a little bit more casual. People have said to me, hey, they see me at the beach walking in Long Beach. I was like, oh, Bill, I don't think I've ever seen you without, a jacket and tie or something. So I'm trying to relax. So no tie today as we approach the holiday weekend. We're having a period here where we're going to be doing some celebrations and having some fun and wrap up the week here with some fun activities. So we talked about your look and your appearance, and again mentioned your headshot. Look, people use headshots online for years, and that's not necessarily bad. But one, you got to make sure you have a good quality headshot, because that's an image that a lot of people will see first before they even meet you in person. So you got to make sure your headshot is good. It can be, the headshot you're going to use on LinkedIn. It's the headshot you're going to use on Twitter or other social media sites or on your blog. So spend the money, spend the $75 or $50, and go out and get a good quality headshot. That's your brand. You want to convey that right. You don't want to be using a picture that's 5 or 8 or 10 years old. I see it all the time, and it's inconsistent. If someone's expecting to see you walk into a networking meeting or a business meeting, and they're expecting a 42-year-old and a 48-year-old guy walks in, or such and such, it's just different than what they expect, then that confuses them as well. You should be, again, consistent with the real world and consistent in the cyber world as well. So we talked about examining your online brand. You want to look at LinkedIn, you want to look at your blog, you want to look at all the social media sites. This is a good time to update all those bios, make sure they're all consistent with the language that you want. Make sure those images I just mentioned about your photo, update them. When you go on Google, search your name, but hit the picture or the image bar and see what comes up. And you'd be surprised if you've been in business for quite a while, like I have been. I have some pictures of me that go back 5 or 10 or 15 years old. I'm not using those anymore, but they're still out there on some sites, and you should look around and see if you can possibly change those images to update them to something that's more appropriate for what you look like today. Happily, I'm probably 25 pounds lighter than I was with some of these pictures I had online a couple of 8 years ago. So make sure that that's there. You also, when you do Google, you want to set Google alerts for your name. A lot of people don't do this in Google alerts. If you have a Gmail account, you can set up a Google alert where it does a search virtually every day if you want to, and it'll return any place that your name appears online, in the news in particular, in blogs, and it'll kick that back to you so you know where your name is. For me, I'm in the press and the media every once in a while for various purposes, so most of the time I know where I'm going to be, but if there's an article or something that I was in or interviewed for, and a Google alert will alert me. I'm in the PR business, so like I have Google alerts set for my clients, a Google alerts set for certain terms that I'm interested in following, and that helps me cull through a lot of data every day. So you want to look at your name and where it appears online. You want to do a search and find out if you've been interviewed by the media, video or written or text type documents or type sites. You want to make sure that you search them and you have a list of those various media outlets that have covered you, and there's articles there, and hey, you know what, it's a good time of year to make a list of those things and think about repurposing those articles. If you were interviewed in a newspaper about your business, there's nothing wrong with sharing that a couple of times more now or maybe throughout the year. If you wrote an article on a blog on a topic that shows your expertise, there's nothing wrong with repurposing that again throughout the year. Hey, look, you spent the time to write something, reuse it, repurpose it. And if it's a little bit out of date, maybe you add a little bit of new content to it in the post or at the bottom or the beginning of the post. But again, you want to share that content. You want to keep reinforcing your brand with that content. If you're not going to be reinforcing the brand and constantly putting out information, you have to figure out how you're going to communicate with your target audience and make sure that they are continually updated with where you want to take your brand and what you want your brand to stand for and who you are. So it's part of the overall personal marketing process. Your posts online, your blogs, whether it's email or articles in a newspaper or videos like this one. So you want to make sure that you're constantly getting those messages out to people. You also want to search the video area of YouTube. Now, I find this interesting because people have been doing videos for a number of years now. I have some videos, 4 or 5 years old, and I look a little bit different. Maybe what I'm talking about and the technology is a little bit different. LinkedIn has changed a lot, video has changed a lot, marketing has changed a lot. So I've thought about those videos that are up there, and I've taken some down because they're not that they're irrelevant, but they just look older. They're not appropriate for what I'm doing right now. So look at those old videos, and if you have the ability to, take them down and then think about updating them. If you did an educational program on whatever topic you're an expert in, and things have changed, a la the ACA, American, Obamacare. That's changed a lot in the way it's been implemented over the years. So if you did something 2 years ago, you should probably think about updating it now, or at least adding on to it with something that's some new content and new information for people that they can get value from. So look at the video content. I mentioned the images. I mentioned the news. So you always want to have an understanding of what your reputation is online. And God forbid something bad ever happened and your name came up as part of something that was controversial, it's always important to know about that ahead of time so that you can get in front of it. So those are a bunch of different tips we have for having a consistent real world and online brand. We work with people all the time to make sure that is consistent, and we make sure that their image is proper, their message works, and they're reaching out to the right target audience through Grow Your Personal Brand and through Corbett Public Relations. Now, I like this topic, and whenever I do presentations, I liken it to the following. Do you ever see the commercial for McDonald's, and you see a commercial for food products, and the food always looks so good. You know, the hamburger, the Big Mac looks beautiful, and they spend thousands of dollars, and they have professional photographers and food artists who put that all together so it looks beautiful, right? But then you go to McDonald's, and what do you find? You find a crushed hamburger that doesn't quite look the way that you want it to it looked on in the advertisement, that the billboard or the TV ad that you saw, right? But you're still gonna eat the burger anyway. You're still gonna eat the Big Mac anyway, right? But isn't it a little disappointing, you know, when you're expecting to see this beautiful, you know, double two all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and it comes out all mushed up and doesn't quite look how it looked. You know, so think about it that in terms of your brand. If you have a great brand in the real world, a la the McDonald's Big Mac, and you spent time to prepare yourself and look good and present well, and then that person goes, those people you met at a speaking engagement look you up online, and wow, they're looking at something that's 5 years old, there's no information in the profile, or you're talking about something completely different. You know, that's not consistent with your brand, and what have you done? You've confused people. You spent the time to get out, market, and do these things, but you're giving conflicting messages. And if that message is different in 20 different places online, then that's what you really looks like you have multiple, you know, personality disorder, and that's not a dig on anybody who actually has that affliction. It's just when you have all these different images online of who you are and it's not consistent, you're not helping yourself. So for 2016, I hope you make the I don't like to say resolutions, as if you've seen other periscopes of mine. I don't like to say resolutions, but you make it your goal to make your brand consistent online in 2016. And I think it'll help yourself, it'll help your business, and it'll help your brand. So I'm Bill Corbett. If you have any questions, always happy to take them at info@growyourpersonalbrand.com. That's the website, Grow Your Personal Brand. We offer you know, individual consulting, team training, as well as you know, one-on-one profile reviews for LinkedIn, and video training and marketing training for people who want to get out in the world of Periscope or in the world of video marketing. Again, in 2016, you're going to see this explode. You're going to see Periscope particularly explode. Meerkat is trailing. The rumor is that Facebook's going to launch their streaming video in this year. Who knows? That's just a rumor I hear right now. But there's other streaming video content, whether it's through webinars or whether it's through just one-on-one FaceTimes. The ability to create content is like never before, and you can take advantage of it. So have a happy holidays. I'll probably do a Periscope one next week before the new year, something related to planning out for your brand for 2016. So we'll talk to you next year, and always feel free to drop me a line. Thanks.